So I wanna meet with successful tennis players, and I think the important question, the real main thing I want to talk about is like kind of try to find the most coordinated people in the world, you know, the people that would never spill. So anyway, so common denominators, what do you remember about your development, or what types of things do you attribute to success in tennis? Now, I think you kind of agree with me as far as don't force your kid into tennis, nurture their love.
That's what I'm doing with my kids, yeah. I'm not forcing them. I mean, I'll take them out there and we'll do like if I'm doing a lesson, sometimes I'll give them a bucket and they just do drop hits on their own.
Yeah.
I gave them like the technical foundation so they have good swings.
Yeah.
But then like I'll give them a bucket and I'll be like, all right, you guys go do drop hits.
Yeah.
And I'll tell them just do a couple buckets. And then like if they want to play more, I'll play more. But if they don't want to play more, a lot of times I'll just say, yeah, that's fine. We'll play, we'll play tomorrow or whatever.
So
and
I just
sometimes I cut them off too.
Yeah.
Because I want to keep them like wanting more.
Keep them hungry. Yeah.
So I do that.
I just like to say that like on camera because I want to preface everything I say with, this is under the assumption that your kid ends up liking tennis, you know, and that they want to get good, and you see that. And so what types of things, should you do with your kid if they like the sport? You know what I'm saying?
Well, my kids, I mean, the biggest thing that I saw with a lot of these kids that play tennis is a lot of them specialize too early.
Yeah.
And so they just don't develop their athleticism.
Yeah.
Their hand-eye coordination, stuff like that. So like, when my kids were young, I just threw a lot of balls to them.
Yeah.
We started with like balloons. You've seen like you just blow up a balloon and they gotta like tap the balloon, and you tap balloons with them.
Yeah.
Put a racket in their hand so they get it, but just doing like athletic stuff with them.
Yeah.
So like when my kids were like 3 or 4 years old, like they could throw pretty well. I'd throw with them and catch with them and do all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So.
Well, no, I noticed like a lot of things like split stepping and anticipation and throwing and generating force. I don't really have to work on that with kids that like play a lot of other sports.
Exactly.
But
a lot of times you'll get kids that aren't really that like. How good are you going to be able to make a kid that's not that coordinated?
Right.
Or that didn't really grow up playing sports, throwing. How hard is it to teach someone to serve if they never threw a ball?
It's tough.
Almost impossible.
It's tough.
So that's the thing. It's like, why are they not doing that when they're younger?
Right.
If you want them to be good, if you want them to have a good service motion, they just need to throw balls when they're little.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. What to do with like say a 10 or 11-year-old kid that's really into tennis and you think they could be good? What type of tips would you give a tennis parent?
Yeah, I mean, again, that could be a day-long conversation, but I would start with number one, like we talked about. I mean, you cannot be that helicopter parent, You cannot be, you cannot be that helicopter parent that is like all over your kid. Why are you not practicing enough? Why are you not hitting your serve? You're not doing that. I mean, if you're that parent that's all over that kid, you're just gonna push them away.
Yeah.
So you gotta, like we said, you gotta keep your kid hungry, and like, obviously you're gonna have to be the one that provides some resources for your kids.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, just because I think there's a lot of times where it's like the parents feel like because they're paying that they then deserve to have control over what's going on.
Yeah.
Which, okay, to a certain extent, but like I would recommend parents, especially the parents that don't know a lot about the sport, like find a great coach, someone like you that can like really mentor these kids, Yeah.
I'm gonna cut that part out.
And
that's gonna be good.
Yeah, but I mean, like who is going to be with your child on a day-to-day basis is the most important thing.
Sure.
And it's not just about tennis. It's about like developing that kid as a person, like what's their character like? Because when you're growing up as an athlete, there's a lot of kids that are talented, but if they don't have the right mentality, the right work ethic, discipline, character, they're not going to be successful as they could be, as if you get a coach that's like really pushing them to like become a better person and is the right kind of person around them that's really being a good influence around them. So for me, the most important thing is, who am I going to like take my kid to? Like, do I trust this person?
Sure.
Is this going to be like a good person to really work with my kid, not just tennis, but also like life, And
no, I tell parents that all the time.
Yeah.
Research, like they say, well, what coach should I bring my kid to? It's like, you need to go watch the coach.
Not just any coach.
You need to hear about. You need to go try different coaches. I have coaches. I see parents like stick their kid with a coach, kid hasn't had a backhand in 5 years,
Yep.
and they're like, well, no, we really like, we care, it's like, well, sometimes, it's okay to go other, you can try different coaches and stuff like that, but I say research the coach.
Research.
Go to I think a key thing to ask a coach is, I think it's really important, like, have you ever had like a 6-year-old and made them into like a college tennis? How often have you in your career taken a young child and made them a college tennis player? And sometimes, because if you go into a junior program and they don't even have a tot program, that's a warning sign right there. Like they don't have a feeder style program. Like where do you get your kids from then? Where do they magically appear? And usually it means they do, because they just take them from other programs or something like that,
And I think the flip side of that too is like, there's, and I would say my area of expertise is not with younger kids, and I know that. I can work with them, and I've had to do more of that working with my own kids. But you'll get a lot of players, just because a guy was a good pro player doesn't mean that they can coach a 6-year-old kid and give them a foundation and technique and how to do that stuff. So it's also like, how many like kids that age are you working with? Like, is this your first player that's like that age? Are you going to give them like a good foundation? Because that's going to be a foundation they're going to build the rest of their game on for their whole tennis journey.
Sure.
So that better be someone that's experienced with that, so that's huge. Those two things are huge to me.
Yeah, that is big. That's good.
And being a supporter, being like a positive supporter. This sounds cliche, but like focusing on the process. These parents, they want tournament results, they want rankings, what's the kid's UTR, all of that stuff. I would call it BS. It doesn't, yes, it's a barometer of how the kid's improving and how they're doing, but like the worst thing you can do, like we were growing up, like the worst thing you can do is like, what's my ranking, what's my UTR, like, all getting so caught up in all that stuff, like, and they're not really developing as their game, So that's a big thing too. Like, what is the coach's mentality? Is he like super focused on the rankings and the tournaments and all this stuff with the kids, or is he focused on like, that's fine, like, results, like, there's an indication of development, obviously, but is he focused more like on the process of like getting this kid better? Like, are we developing the game? Are the kids he coaches staying back and just like pushing the ball with terrible technique, or are they like hitting the ball and like, man, this kid looks like a little pro? So then okay, this guy's got to be doing some coaching, right? So,
I'm always impressed when I see a young kid like not. It doesn't take much
like,
to impress me these days.
Do they have a continental grip? Boom. Are they coming in like?
Like if the kid's not pancaking a serve, like you have a good coach.
Exactly.
Congratulations. I think that's a good sign.
For sure. So
if the kid's doing that, so no, that's great.
Yep.